She found him at the hospital, a pale, silent toddler nobody wanted. So she picked him up and never let go, taught him to walk, to pray, to love. And when her knees got weak and her hair turned silver, he thanked her by locking her out of her own home. But what he didn't know is she had a secret, and she was about to remind him who built the house he tried to steal. It was late Thursday afternoon, that strange kind of day where the sun doesn't quite know if it wants to stay up or call it quits early. May stood on the porch of the house she'd lived in for over 20 years. She had on her soft house slippers and that light blue cardigan that always smelled faintly of lavender. In her arms was a reusable grocery bag, a warm rotisserie chicken, some beans, a loaf of bread, just enough for dinner. She reached into her pocket, pulled out her house key, and slid it into the lock. But it didn't fit. She frowned, tried again, turned it slow, then fast, flipped it upside down. Still nothing. May stared at the door, and her heart sank. Something was wrong. The lock had been changed. She knocked gently at first, then again, harder this time, and that's when the door opened just a crack. A young woman peeked through, eyes wide like she wasn't expecting company. "May, hey," she said. "You weren't supposed to be back yet." May blinked. "Natalie, why can't I get in the house?" Natalie looked over her shoulder, then stepped outside. She shut the door behind her. "Ryan was gonna talk to you about that." May felt her chest tighten. "Talk to me about what?" Natalie lowered her voice. "You don't live here anymore." The words dropped like a brick. May clutched the grocery bag tighter, unsure what to do with her hands. "What did you just say?" Natalie gave one of those awkward smiles, the kind people use when they're pretending everything's normal. "Look, it's just paperwork stuff. Ryan said you agreed to transfer the deed." "I what? Remember a few weeks ago? All those documents you signed at the kitchen table? He said you knew." May stood still, and slowly, it started to click. Those papers, the way Ryan brushed off her questions, how he told her it was just routine. Housekeeping, he'd called it, to protect the home in case anything happened. He'd told her not to worry. She'd trusted him. She'd trusted her only son. Natalie stepped back inside, muttering something about calling Ryan. The door shut and locked. May stood there for a minute, then 5, then 10. Nobody came back, and she didn't knock again. She walked down the porch steps slowly, rotisserie chicken still tucked under her arm like it was something precious. She didn't know where she was going, but she knew one thing. She wasn't going back inside, because Ryan hadn't just taken the house. He'd taken something deeper. But May was starting to remember who she really was, long before this house, long before Natalie, and long before she was tricked into signing anything. Back in 1996, May worked the night shift at St. Francis Hospital in Jackson, Mississippi. She was a nurse, strong, quiet, steady. She never had children of her own. After 2 miscarriages and 1 hard round of IVF, she'd stopped hoping. The grief never fully left. It just tucked itself inside. Then one night, he came in. Little Ryan, just 2 years old. He had a broken wrist and a face that looked like it hadn't smiled in a while. Pale, underfed, wearing a t-shirt that swallowed his tiny frame, mustard stains near the collar. His foster mother didn't stay, dropped him off with social workers and vanished. May didn't plan to become a mother that night. But sometimes, life doesn't knock. Sometimes it just places a child in your arms and dares you to let go. He wouldn't talk at first, wouldn't eat unless she fed him, wouldn't sleep unless he was holding on to her scrubs. There was something in May that made him feel safe. That was enough. 2 months later, she filed the first adoption papers. 6 months later, he had her last name. Her friends told her she was crazy. a single black woman in her late 30s, adopting a white toddler with trauma. They laughed and asked, "You trying to save the whole system?" She'd just smile and say, "No, just saving this one." And that's how it all began. She gave him everything: a warm bed, lunches with his name on the bag, trips to the zoo, swimming lessons, tutors when he struggled to read, the best doctor when his asthma got bad. She taught him how to braid hair, using action figures, just in case he ever had a daughter someday. She never missed a school play, never missed a parent-teacher meeting, never made him feel like anything less than hers. But as Ryan grew, something shifted, and May felt it. That part comes later. But right now she was standing outside the home she built, locked out, not just by a key, but by the boy she once carried in her arms like he was the whole world. Back when Ryan was little, he used to cling to May's hand just to fall asleep. He used to cry when she left the room, even for a minute. But that didn't last forever. By middle school, he started asking questions. "Why don't I look like you? Why do people stare at us when we go shopping? Why does everybody think I'm adopted?" And every time May would answer softly, "Because you are. But that doesn't mean you're not mine." She meant it, but he never really accepted it. By high school, he grew distant, spent more time in his room, more time on his phone, less time saying, "I love you." By college, he barely came home at all, and when he did, it was just for a night, a quick dinner, a rushed, "Hey mama," before heading out again. May didn't complain, not once. She just kept the porch light on, kept his old room exactly how he left it, kept loving him quietly, like she always had. Then 3 years ago, everything changed. May's husband, Leonard, passed away. A blood clot, missed by the doctors, just gone. He had been her calm, her anchor. They met at church, fell in love over catfish dinners and scripture, and spent nearly 30 years building a home filled with patience and prayer. May didn't think the pain could go deeper than losing him, but it did. Because after Leonard passed, Ryan started showing up more. At first, she thought it was healing. He came by often, mowed the lawn, changed light bulbs, brought Natalie with him. May would make cornbread while they watched Jeopardy on the porch. She thought maybe he missed her. Maybe they were starting fresh. But she didn't know. Ryan hadn't come home to reconnect. He came home to take inventory. And by the time May realized it, her name was off the deed. Her trust had been traded away for empty words and smooth lies. She spent that night in her car, parked 2 blocks from the house she used to call home, in front of some old duplexes with chipped paint and sagging porch steps. She didn't cry. She just sat there, hands locked on the steering wheel, 10 and 2, even after the engine shut off. The rotisserie chicken sat untouched on the seat beside her, cold now, grease soaking through the bag. She stared straight ahead, not seeing anything. Because sometimes grief doesn't scream. Sometimes it just settles in your lungs and makes it hard to breathe. In the morning, May went to the bank, part habit, part instinct. The account balance was the same as always, untouched, because Ryan never knew about it. After Leonard died, the hospital had tried to dodge responsibility, called it a natural complication. But May had been a nurse too long not to know what went wrong. She had filed complaints, talked to a lawyer friend. 2 years later, she won a malpractice lawsuit, $9.5 million. She didn't tell a soul, not even Ryan. She put the money in a separate trust under her maiden name, scattered it across quiet accounts in small banks. It wasn't paranoia, it was peace of mind. Because May had seen what money could do to people, she didn't want it to change how she loved. She wanted it to buy her time, if time was ever needed. And now, sitting in that bank lobby, hands folded in her lap, she realized something. Ryan hadn't just betrayed her, he'd underestimated her. He thought she was just a woman with soft slippers and tired hands, but May had knowledge, May had patience, and May had strength, more than he would ever understand. That night she checked into a roadside motel, paid in cash, no questions. She sat on the creaky bed, opened her old notebook, the one filled with prayers and reminders and phone numbers she didn't want to forget. At the back of the notebook was a message she'd written the day the court settlement arrived. It read, "Don't let money make you loud. Let it make you quiet. Let it buy you time." She read it again, and this time she smiled. Ryan thought he kicked her out, but what he really did was set her free. Still, freedom doesn't mean comfort. Not right away. There were still fires to walk through, and May was just getting started. The first time Ryan handed May those papers, it was a Sunday afternoon. She was folding dish towels at the kitchen table, the smell of sweet potato pie drifting from the oven. Her knees ached that day. She could feel rain coming, but she smiled through it. Ryan had shown up without calling first. That used to bother her. But this time, she told herself, maybe it meant he missed her. He walked in wearing a slim-fit dress shirt, one of those trendy ones that looked too expensive for someone with no steady job. Natalie followed close behind, barely looking up from her phone. "Hey, Mama," Ryan said, giving her a half hug. "We brought some paperwork. Nothing serious, just house stuff. Cleaning things up on the back end, you know?" May paused. "What kind of paperwork?" Ryan opened a folder like it was a deck of cards, smiling. "Just trust documents, real estate stuff, some power of attorney forms. We had it reviewed. Natalie's firm does this all the time." From behind her phone, Natalie chimed in without looking up. "It's just to protect your assets, Miss Carter. Totally standard. Avoids probate." May looked down at the papers. It all felt sudden. "I didn't ask to avoid anything," she said quietly. Ryan chuckled. I know. That's why we're doing it for you." He sat beside her, tapped the signature lines with a pen. "Here, I already highlighted where to sign. You don't need to worry about the rest. I went over everything with them already." May hesitated. Something in her gut said, "Wait, say something. Maybe, let me have someone else look at this. Maybe, why do you need power of attorney right now?" But then she looked at him, her baby, her boy who used to cry when she walked past his crib, the one who needed his inhaler after running too fast, the one who refused to sleep unless she held his hand when he had the chicken pox at 6. So she signed, page after page. While the oven timer beeped in the background, Ryan even laughed and said, "You're making history, Mama." She puffed a small laugh. The pie was done. She stood up to turn off the oven. The smell of cinnamon and burnt sugar stuck in her memory for weeks after. So did the sound of the pen cap clicking shut, and the look on Natalie's face. Satisfied. May didn't know it then, but that was the last time she'd ever sit at that kitchen table. The visit started getting shorter after that. Ryan came by with papers she didn't care to read. Bank statements. Investor friends. He started talking about flipping houses, building portfolios, like the home she raised him in was just another number. One day, while she was watering the begonias in the front yard, she heard Natalie whisper, "Once we close on this place, we can finally get that apartment in Dallas." That's when May started packing a small bag, just in case. She tucked away her Bible, her passport, the last photo she had of Leonard, and her notebook, the one with all her banking information, the one Ryan didn't know existed. Her body didn't move fast anymore, but her mind was still sharp enough to know when love had started to rot. Still, she kept quiet, until one Wednesday afternoon. May had just finished vacuuming the living room. Ryan walked in without knocking, still wearing sunglasses indoors. Natalie trailed behind, mid-conversation on her Bluetooth. They didn't say hello, just walked past her like she was the help. Then Ryan paused, turned around, said, "Hey, next time you use the Dyson, can you empty it out?" "We've got people coming to see the place this weekend." May blinked. "People? Realtors," he said. "Just market research." She stared. "You're selling the house?" He chuckled, like she had asked if he was flying to Mars. "Not yet. Just thinking ahead. Gotta explore all our options, right?" She straightened up. "Our options?" That's when he said it. "You're a guest now, Mama." He said it like it was nothing, like it didn't hurt. "It's still your space, of course," he added, "but legally, well, you know how it is." May's hand tightened on the vacuum handle. She didn't cry, didn't yell, just nodded. That night she packed her bag for real. She didn't take much, just what she needed. Her Bible, her notebook, 2 dresses, a pair of sneakers, and her wedding band. The one she hadn't worn since Leonard died, but still kept in a tiny pouch by the bed. Ryan didn't ask where she was going. Natalie didn't care. They had what they wanted, or so they thought. May checked into a budget motel on the edge of town, the kind with flickering hallway lights and a vending machine that still took quarters. The heater wheezed like it had asthma, but it was hers, and it was quiet. She sat on the edge of the bed, opened her notebook, and started dialing. May stared at the old number written in blue ink. It belonged to Doris, an advocate she'd met years ago at a housing nonprofit. Back then, Doris helped her deal with a shady tenant who tried to sue over a broken pipe. May had kept her number all this time, just in case. She dialed, once, twice, disconnected. May sighed. Then she remembered someone else, Clarence Bell. Everyone called him CJ. He was Leonard's old friend from the neighborhood, a retired lawyer, stubborn as a mule, but sharp. May hadn't talked to him in years, but her fingers moved anyway, pressing the numbers slow and steady. The phone rang 6 times before a gravelly voice answered. "This better be Jesus or trouble." May smiled. "Maybe it's both." "May?" "Yeah, it's me. I need to talk to you." She didn't have to explain much, because real friends remember the ones who show up with a casserole after your surgery. CJ told her to meet him at a diner just off I-20 the next morning. It was one of those old places with ceramic mugs and waitresses who called everyone honey, whether they were 5 or 85. CJ looked older now, more gray in his beard, glassy eyes, slower steps, but he still had that thick brow, that don't you dare lie to me look. "You look like hell," he said, sliding into the booth. May laughed under her breath. "Good morning to you too." They ordered coffee, black for both, no cream, no sugar, just like Leonard used to drink it. Then CJ leaned in. "All right," he said. "Tell me everything. Don't soften it. Don't skip. Just say it." And so she did. The paperwork. The way Ryan handed her a pen with a smile. The changed locks. The way Natalie looked at her like a stranger in her own kitchen. The guest comment. The vacuum. The realtors. CJ listened. Didn't interrupt. When she finished, he let out a long breath. "He tricked you," CJ said. "Played you. But he made one big mistake." "What's that?" she asked. "He forgot who raised him." May stared at her napkin. "I signed the deed over, CJ." "Yeah, but signing under false pretenses, that doesn't make it legal, especially if you were misled or didn't understand the full scope." She raised an eyebrow. "You think we can take him to court?" CJ smirked. "May, I could take him to court in my sleep." She gave a weak laugh, no humor in it. "I'm tired, CJ. I'm not trying to destroy him. I want my home. and I want to look in the mirror again without feeling like a fool." CJ nodded. "Then we won't destroy him. We'll teach him something." They spent the next 2 hours going over everything: dates, signatures, conversations. May had written most of it down already. Out of habit, old nurse instincts, always document. CJ laid out what would come next. He'd connect her with a younger lawyer. They'd file a petition, challenge the deed transfer, argue it was fraudulent. He explained what to expect, the process, the timelines. May listened. And then she said something she hadn't told a soul. "I've got money, CJ." He blinked. "You mean a little savings?" "Number, I mean real money." She lowered her voice. "Hospital settlement, 9.5 million. CJ nearly dropped his mug. "Jesus, I never touched it. Didn't want Ryan to know. Didn't want anyone to know." CJ shook his head slowly. "You've been sitting on $9 million and letting this boy walk all over you?" "I didn't want money to change how I loved him," she whispered. CJ didn't respond right away. He just reached across the table and gently touched her hand. "It didn't," he said. "He changed all on his own." May looked out the window. Her reflection in the glass looked older than she felt, cracked, but not broken. She turned back to CJ. "I want to do this right. No cameras, no headlines. I just want my name back on my door." CJ nodded. "We'll get it. But before the paperwork, before the hearings, there was one more thing May had to do. One last conversation. Not with the man Ryan had become, but with the boy she once knew. She didn't call first. She knew if she did, he wouldn't pick up. Or worse, Natalie would answer. So she drove, late afternoon. The yard looked too perfect, trimmed to impress, not to love. Her begonias were gone. She knocked once. Ryan opened the door in gym shorts and a branded hoodie, sipping a protein shake. His face dropped the second he saw her. May, what are you doing here?" May stepped forward just enough so the screen door was between them. "I don't need much of your time. Just wanted to say something." He looked over his shoulder, checking for Natalie, then stepped onto the porch. "Look, if this is about the house," she raised a hand. "Let me finish." And for once, he listened. May looked him in the eye. "I raised you when nobody else would," she said. "Not because I had to, not because I expected anything in return, but because I saw a child who needed love, and I gave you every ounce I had." Ryan shifted uncomfortably. His eyes darted to the side, but she kept hers steady. "I gave up sleep, gave up time, my body, my peace, and I never once made you feel like a guest in this life." Her throat tightened. "And you repaid me, with a signature and a lock I couldn't open." He rubbed the back of his neck. "You signed, Ma. It's not like I forced—" "Don't call me Ma," she said, her voice sharp but quiet. "Not if you don't mean it." Silence settled between them, heavy. She took a breath and straightened her shoulders. "I'm not here to fight. I just came to say this. I know what you did, and you should know. I'm not broke. I never was." Ryan blinked. His face changed. First confusion, then disbelief, then fear. "I've got enough money to buy this house 10 times over." He opened his mouth, but no words came out. "I've already spoken to a lawyer," May said calmly. "This will go where it needs to go. I just wanted to look you in the eye one last time before it does." Ryan's shoulders sagged. "You're going to sue me?" "No," she said. "I'm going to remind you what a real home costs." Then she turned and walked away. No yelling, no crying, no begging, just a woman who had finally remembered her worth. 3 months later, the house was empty. No furniture, no Natalie, no Ryan. The new owner was a retired school teacher from Lafayette. She said the place felt heavy, like it had lived through something. And it had. CJ had moved fast. The court petition was solid. The judge didn't even blink. After reading the documents and hearing the testimony, the ruling was clear. May had been misled. The transfer, manipulative at best, possibly illegal. Ryan never showed up. He'd already left the state. Natalie? She went back to Dallas, alone. May didn't smile when she heard, didn't celebrate. She just exhaled, long and slow, like something inside her had finally let go. But she didn't move back into that house. Too many memories, too many ghosts. Instead, May did something else. Something quiet. Something no one saw coming. She bought 3 modest homes in Pascagoula, Mississippi. Not big ones, not flashy, just enough. And she turned them into safe housing for older women. Women like her. Women over 60. Evicted, displaced, forgotten by their families. She called it Len's Place, named after her late husband. Said it was the kind of thing he would have done if he'd lived long enough to retire. The first resident was Alma, 74 years old, kicked out by her grandson when she couldn't babysit full-time anymore. The second was Darlene. Her own daughter sold her house while she was in rehab for hip surgery. May cooked Sunday dinner for them. Sometimes they watched game shows together. Sometimes they just sat on the porch in silence, swapping stories about who hurt them and how they survived anyway. May didn't need to tell her story. They saw it in the way she carried herself, calm, steady, unapologetic. CJ still stopped by now and then, especially when the paperwork piled up. He once joked about putting her on a billboard. The woman who turned betrayal into a blueprint. May just laughed, waved him off. "I'm just doing what my mama taught me," she said. "You don't fold when you're cornered. You pray, you plant your feet, and you protect your peace." Because for May, the fight had never really been about the house. It was about her name, her dignity, and the truth. You can raise someone with everything you've got, give them all your love, your patience, your years, and they can still walk away, not because of who you were, but because of who they chose to be. And that's not your shame to carry. 1 year later, May sat on the back porch of Len's place, a fleece blanket over her lap, a warm cup of tea in her hands. The sky was painted in orange and gold, the kind of Mississippi sunset that made silence feel like a hymn. Alma was upstairs crocheting. Darlene was in the kitchen humming as she cleaned collard greens. May didn't feel busy, didn't feel hurt. She felt still. That morning, a letter had arrived. No return address, just her name on the envelope, written in a familiar hand. Inside was a note. "I messed up," it read. "I see that now. I don't know why I did what I did. Maybe I thought I was owed something. Maybe I just never understood what you gave me. I don't expect forgiveness. But I needed to say, you didn't deserve it. I hope you're okay." It was signed, Ryan. May read it twice, then folded it neatly and placed it in the back of her Bible, not to forget, but to remember without reliving, because forgiveness isn't about letting someone off the hook. It's about setting yourself free. May knew that now. She closed her eyes and breathed in deep, the kind of breath that fills more than lungs. It fills memory. It fills meaning, because home isn't made of walls. It's made of love. And May had built a new one from scratch. No paperwork needed.